let the dogs out. Like, who let the dogs out? Who?
Off the Hook, airing on offthehooksports.com. Your home for real news, real opinions, and what really matters about Tennessee athletics. Always available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, iHeart. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Always available wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Goodness gracious, Crazy Nugs is the best person in the world. Waiting for us, saying good morning, folks. It is Florida week with Amanda LaFratta. I'm Dave Hooker. Wow. This is the kind of week that you do all the summer work for. This is the kind of week that you get excited for. This is the kind of week that reminds me of the 90s, not to seem like the old guy. So welcome to the program. She's Amanda LaFratta. Dave Hooker, I would say welcome back from vacation, but you ended up working too much on vacation, which we certainly appreciate. Good morning, young lady.
Good morning, Dave. How are you?
I'm well. So you're traveling all about. By the way, hit the like and subscribe button. Go ahead and share, because we have a fantastic show coming up today. We're going to visit with Jacob Warren. We're going to visit with Chris Landry, a breakdown. So we've got a lot going on. So hang with us today and go ahead and hit that share button. We greatly appreciate it. So Amanda, any thoughts just initially as we'll dig into the Down and Dirty at 30 brought to you by Honeybee Coffee, but over the weekend, any thoughts? I know you were traveling, but you're a football junkie like me, so you're all on top of it. And anything specifically, doesn't have to be Tennessee, doesn't even have to be SEC, but let's start it with anything stand out to you.
I mean, honestly, a lot of things stood out to me, and most of them are concerning football in general. It just seems like a lot of these smaller teams are coming after these bigger guys, and I don't know exactly what's happening. I mean, we had, Marshall upset Notre Dame last week and then come out and get upset themselves. And then Appalachian State almost lost to Troy. So it seems in, college football, it's a merry-go-round of, this person beat this person beat this person beat this person, and we all go around in a circle. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on. I know it happens every year, but it seems like it's happening a lot more this year.
Yeah, there are a lot of upsets. I think we've got enough of a sample size where we can start to determine who's who just a little bit. And I don't think Notre Dame's very good. That would be one of those I would draw a comparison to. I think Miami was a little overrated because I actually got up and watched that Texas A&M Miami game this morning because I'm an idiot. And A&M had a ton of people out and an ejection and still was able to hold on. So I think Miami's a little bit overrated. But let's get to Tennessee. Tennessee with a big win. It's the Down and Dirty at 30, brought to you by Honeybee Coffee. And why is Honeybee so good, Amanda LaFratta?
I mean, top 5% of the beans in the world. You have veteran owned, which is always a good thing to support. But it's just really good coffee. I mean, it really is. It's just really good coffee.
Yep, I agree with that. The Down and Dirty at 30 brought to you by Honeybee Coffee. So, Amanda, it is a big weekend for Tennessee, a big week for Tennessee, and the biggest in a long, long time. If you start to look at some of the things that are happening with the Vols, it is pretty phenomenal. College game day is in town. They're pushing a top 10 ranking. Just an awful lot going on. And, it is Florida week. And I think this is a very beatable Florida team. We'll dig into this deeper with Chris Landry. But how many times have we gone into the Tennessee-Florida game thinking that Tennessee is the better team? Now, I'm not talking about the 90s. A lot of people thought some of those 90s teams were better just because Peyton Manning was on them. No, those Florida teams defensively were loaded. But I'm talking about even recently when Florida took a bit of a downturn after Urban Meyer. How many of those Tennessee teams were better? I say a lot. For whatever reason, Tennessee has fallen short in this game. Do they do so on Saturday? I I do not know, Amanda. But ultimately, Tennessee, I believe I saw as a 9.5-point favorite. The number got pushed up. And correct me if I'm wrong, because you're a gambling expert. And Amanda went 3-1. So if you don't check out her picks on Saturday morning, you're just throwing money away. But so the if I'm wrong, tell me. But it was like 5.5 or 6.5 last week, and then it early Sunday morning was 7.5, and I'd been told that it had already been pushed to 9.5, which means the bookies or the Sharks or Tennessee fans or whoever it may be is pushing the number. People think that Tennessee will win. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, that's exactly right. It's the betting public, if you will, thinks that Tennessee is. It started out, I think, at 5.5 favorite, and then it's moved all the way up. So the betting public thinks that Tennessee's going to win this game and going to win by 2 scores. So, I mean, whether that's Tennessee fans, whether that's just people betting, honestly, like that's just what it is. Tennessee looks like a double-digit favorite over this Florida team that barely squeaked by USF this weekend. So,
yeah, and a Florida team that lost to Kentucky pretty handily. You go into this game, and it's one that you would certainly think that Tennessee should win. But you go back, and over the course of history, there's kind of been that big orange curse, so to speak, with the Florida game in particular. But I go back to the Jabbar Gaffney catch. Even there's just been so many times that you thought Tennessee would win this game, and they haven't. So we'll see if things change. But as far as the Vols moving up in the polls, I want to get to that. But first, let's take a look around the SEC. Any games that stood out to you? I mentioned the A&M game. I think everything else, for the most part, pretty much fell in place with the SEC schedule. Your thoughts on what happened there?
So LSU, LSU, Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm.
That game, to me, it wasn't a surprise. That was one of my pick-ems. I picked LSU to upset Mississippi State. But the amount of points that they did it by, I think, was pretty insane. I don't know if it's Mike Leach. I don't know if LSU just came ready to play after being embarrassed, the first week of college football with Florida State. But, I mean, this LSU team they're always somebody that you're going to have to prepare for and get over. It's going to be a difficult time. Now, will they always win? Probably not. I mean, they're not very good, if we're being honest. But you're always going to have to prepare for them, and it's annoying. It's annoying going against LSU.
Well, and they're just so talented. They can most of the time they can play poorly and still manage to be by far the most talented team. So as far as the rest of the SEC, let's kind of run that down. Vanderbilt beats Northern Illinois. Missouri wins. Auburn gets destroyed by Penn State 41-12, and still a series that I don't know why in the world Auburn ever scheduled that, because it just allows Penn State to get some visibility in the South where there are better football players. I've never understood why they scheduled that. Ole Miss 42-0 over Georgia Tech. Somebody, I'm not going to mention it. I don't like calling that other media, but somebody picked that as the upset special. Oops. Florida beats South Florida, as we mentioned, just barely 31-28. And then Texas A&M over Miami 17-9. And boy, Texas A&M tried to lose that game. Fumbled punt return that you shouldn't have even tried to return. It was about his own 6-yard line. And Texas A&M is just not a fundamentally sound team, which is bizarre to me. But they did, as I mentioned, have several guys out because of injuries and other issues, and they were able to prevail. So your thoughts on Jimbo Fisher? I mean, does anything change by beating Miami? I know you're not very high on him. I'm not either. So, I mean, does anything change significantly there in your mind?
I mean, not in my mind, but I think it changes for the boosters. I think it changes for his job security, at least. I think that Texas A&M has enough money to take him out whenever they want to. and not, kill him, but I'm saying just fire him. They have enough money to do that and pay the buyout, no problem. So him winning against Miami, his job security definitely increased, because I think if he had lost to Miami and he had lost a couple more games this season, he would have been gone.
Yeah, even for $95 million, you think that they would have paid that out?
It doesn't matter. Texas A&M, it does not matter. They will pay it. They will get him out of there. That is the one thing they do not want to do, is lose, and they don't want to be embarrassed while losing. So now everyone's off of the whole yell leader, situation that happened. Everybody's past it.
Wait, one more time, because that one kind of flew by me. Explain the yell leader again and what happened last week.
So Texas A&M has these yell leaders, and they just go out and do like this pep rally on Friday, and they just tell the worst jokes about, like, the worst burns you can think of about other schools, and it's the dumbest thing ever. Like, it's really bad. They call it Appalachian State a bunch of hillbillies, and meanwhile they're in the middle of a pep rally in overalls doing this weird dance and chants, and it's just very, very, very unsettling. If you are any kind of college football fan, it is not a good look for Texas A&M.
No, it's not. Now, with Tennessee, I do want to go back to the game that we talked about post game with Caleb Calhoun on Off the Hook Sports. Check out the YouTube page, and please hit that like, subscribe, and share button. And I saw some highlights that I didn't catch during the game, and that got pretty chippy. Punches thrown, and I think I know why. I saw a highlight that was pulled that Hendon Hooker took a really low blow on one of the speed option plays for Dylan Sampson. I go back and I think the Cedric Tillman injury, was that a low blow on purpose? We talked to Jacob Warren yesterday, and he didn't want to go there, and I understand. But there are a lot of things that can happen during the course of the game to make things chippy. And I really believe that there was some dirty play going on there. I thought the Hooker play in particular, and we might pull it up a little bit later, the guy essentially just shot at his knees. So he's taking away the keep. Did you see that play? I sent you that play. Did you? So what did you think of that?
No, I saw it live. I thought it was awful. I think any time someone goes after specifically a player's knees and comes at it from the side, that's my problem. If you're going full tackle in the front, that's fine. You're grabbing them around the knees, both knees, and taking him down. That's fine. But the whole going from the side and leading with your helmet into somebody's knee, as I mentioned this before, Marcus Lattimore, that happened to him by a Tennessee player named Eric Gordon. I remember that because that drove me. I was so mad about that because it is a purposeful hit. And I know every school has players that do it, and I get that. But this is, however angry you are about losing by 63 to 6, however upset you are when you're losing to a school, it's never okay for you to take out another player. That's his livelihood. That's his future. I mean, you're really messing with him. And what kind of a crap individual do you have to be to do that kind of thing? There's sometimes players get hit. I'll give an example. Tua by Mississippi State, clean hit, completely clean hit. That's knocked him completely out for like a year or something like that. Not a year. I think, maybe. I can't remember. But, I mean, the whole hip thing, it was like he was a, 80-year-old grandma. Completely clean hit. No issues with that whatsoever. But you have these hits with these players that take their helmet and just boom, right into the knee when you know it's on purpose. You know that's what they're doing.
So John's saying that you don't hit the quarterback and the quarterback keeps it. Hey, I've got no problem, John, with him absolutely cleaning his clock above his waist. I mean, I got zero problem with that. I mean, not only do you keep him from keeping it, but you make him not want to keep it on future plays. You hit him so hard in the chest. I got a problem with whether it's technically a penalty or not, diving at his knees. John, I think if you go to my Twitter feed and look at that and come back, I'm not encouraging you to leave, but I think if you look at my Twitter feed, you will see, because I retweeted that this morning, that's a dirty football play. I don't know if it's a penalty technically by the rules, but that was a dirty football play, Amanda. No question.
No, that was dirty. And again, not coming from someone who's biased one way or the other, that was a dirty play. It was just a dirty play. I mean, we see whenever you have someone, especially, a wide receiver or whatever, lose it that badly to where he's throwing punches at a helmet, there's a reason for that. I mean, there's always a reason for that. It's just like with Mike Evans, Tampa Bay yesterday. Somebody did something, went after Brady, and he lost it. I mean, lost it.
Yeah.
Got ejected.
Whether or not it breaks the rules, they're just dirty plays. I remember Andre Dirty Waters would dive low for the Eagles. That's going way back. And there have been other guys that do dirty things. And John, I promise you, if you look at this play, if you've seen the play, you're going to change your mind. John saying you can't hit Hendon above the waist, he gets by you. You can hit him at the waist or higher. You do not have to dive at his knees. Those are two very different things. John, you and I may agree to disagree on that, but it's 2-1 right now. Amanda and I think it's dirty.
It's different when you dive at his, like I said, it's different when you dive at the knees, arms out, wrapping up a quarterback or a player. That's fine. That's different. When you take that helmet and you shove it into a knee, one knee, especially from the side, that's a dirty play. Or one knee from the front. When you're going after somebody with the intention of taking out their knee, that is a dirty play. Doesn't matter where you hit them. When your helmet touches first, dirty play.
Well, and even the Cedric Tillman play, I go back and look at that now after
That
seeing
was a dirty play.
It was low. I didn't necessarily think it at the time because you're so busy writing, but now I look back at that and I think that's a borderline or a dirty play. Pretty darn close. He could have accidentally, since Cedric was elevated. I mean, you could make that argument once, but after I see three of them, I think that's a team that's coached like that in some shape, form, or fashion. So let's talk Tennessee. Let's talk about Florida Week right now. We want you to hit that like and subscribe button. Also share so we can be a part of your day. We're here each and every morning, every weekday at 8:30 and after Tennessee games. Let's break down the Tennessee game headed into Florida. So we know the Vols beat Akron 63-6. College game day will be in town. The checkerboards will be there. 9.5-point favorites or more, depending on which service you use. The Vols are ranked number 11 in the AP poll, number 12 in the USA Today poll. So, Amanda, today's tough question, does the hype scare you? Because Tennessee fans have been in this situation before, and that situation is you should go into the Florida game and win. And I'm not saying every year. Again, there have been years where I think fans have gotten overly excited, but this is one of those years that if Tennessee walks away without a win, it's got to be for some issue on their end. I don't see how Florida, if Tennessee plays a B+ game, could beat Tennessee based off what I've seen in 3 games of each team this season. We'll see, but I think that would be a major disappointment. So today's tough question brought to you by Pedigo Chattanooga, locally owned store where you'll be treated like family, the region's foremost electric bike experts, and they've got the shop there to take care of it. Don't order any bike online. You'll not find anybody to work on it. That's why you need to go to Pedigo Chattanooga. So, Amanda, how do we want to phrase today's tough question? I'd like for it to revolve around the hype. Today's tough question is what?
Do you like the hype surrounding the game? I mean,
Do you like that? Do you like the hype, or does the hype scare you?
no, yeah. Does the hype scare you?
Yeah, I because there is an awful lot of hype. There is an awful lot of pressure. I would almost like this team's chances as much or more if they were on the road, which sounds insane. Yeah, when you have all of that pressure, don't think that they're going to hear from it throughout the week. So the options for today's tough question will be what?
It will be no. I love it. It'll be not really. It'll be a little bit, and then
Scared to death.
Yeah, stop talking about it.
Absolutely stop. Don't say a word until 3:30 and kickoff. So go ahead, and if you want to share your thoughts on today's tough question, you can do that now. Daniel's saying it's up to 10.5 now. Wowzers. So who would you take right now before we get back to the message board, Amanda? Who would you take at 10.5?
So if I was just looking at the two teams and not factoring in the history behind it, not factoring in the emotions that run wild, the game day, all of that stuff, I would probably take Florida with 10.5 points. I would take Florida just because the double-digit SEC. I've always talked about this, and also Anthony Richardson's ability to be on versus off. He can't throw worth anything, but he can outrun you. I mean, that's just we've seen it happen. He's a freak athlete, not a good quarterback. Maybe a running back, could be. But with that being said, I think it would be hard to, for Florida to, or for Tennessee to cover those points with all the emotions and all that stuff involved. If I just looked at it, I would take Tennessee. Like if I just looked at the two teams, comparatively speaking, without any emotion involved, I'd take Tennessee to cover that spread.
My early thought is that Tennessee either wins big and pulls away early, which they haven't played well early in the past two games. They didn't against Akron, they didn't against Pitt, and I'm nitpicking because they still scored a couple of touchdowns in the first quarter. I'm just talking about very, very early first drive, and part of that was Jabari Small out with the shoulder issue. By the way, quick injury update. You'll get no injury update from Tennessee because you don't have to, like the NFL you do because of gambling. So Dylan Sampson had a bit of an issue, I'm told, with an ankle. Jabari Small, we saw with the shoulder. I think he's going to be fine. Byron Young came back into the game, so I think he's fine. Cedric Tillman, we're just not going to know because at the press conference on Monday, we're not going to be told anything. That's Josh Heupel's MO, and I don't blame him. He doesn't have to. But heard it may be more of an ankle than a knee. Is he sore today? Yes. Will he be 100% in the Florida game? I'm not entirely sure, but 90% of Cedric Tillman would still be pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, you need Cedric on the field. You need him to make those big plays. We see that Florida's defense is not great. I mean, Kentucky made them look real bad. And that's without their starting running back for Kentucky. So you need your playmakers on the field against Florida. Again, with all the emotion, all of the hype, all of that gets to players. They say it doesn't, they lie. They're human. It gets to players, gets to fans.
Nobody lies in sports, Amanda. Nobody lies. Maybe a little bit. I'm going to go with today's tough question is no, I love it. I love the hype. I love the fact that, listen, let's find out if this team can answer the bell. Let's find out if Josh Heupel can get the biggest win of his career. Let's find all of that out this weekend because you will. And this Tennessee football team is far from perfect, probably not elite. But if they win on Saturday and they get some dominoes to fall the right way in front of them, they're going to be a top 10 football team. It's a top 10 football team headed into the rest of the season feeling really good about themselves. These are the type of swing games, and we talked about it early, Amanda. The swing games were Florida, LSU, were South Carolina. I think you had Pitt as a swing game, maybe. I thought that they would win. I did not count that as a swing game. I should have, because they almost lost. But this is the first of those swing games that will determine your season, and Tennessee should win. I'll look at the poll right now. Early indications. Today's tough question as a Tennessee fan: does the hype scare you? Scared to death, 50%. 25% says a little bit. 16.7% says I love it, and then 8% says not really. And Ryan. Hey, Ryan, how are you? I said I'm a little nervous about it, but confident at the same time. Crazy says, I love it. It's a different year, different teams, different coach too. I think Florida has a better coach than they had last year, but I don't think you're going to see that take effect until next year or the year after. I think right
he
now
looks like Aaron Hernandez.
You did say that, and I cannot. You said that like 2 weeks ago. I cannot get it out of my mind.
Nope.
It is bizarre how much he looks like Aaron Hernandez.
I don't know if he looks like him or his mannerisms or what it is, but every time I look at him, I think of Aaron Hernandez. Every time.
I mean, let's be honest. Do you think that came up in like a boardroom when they're considering hiring Billy Napier? So they're like, all right, we're down to Billy Napier and Billy Joe Bob, who coaches at Oklahoma and A&M, and we're between these two guys. You know, they've got pretty equal resumes, but that dude looks like Aaron Hernandez.
If it did, he would not be there, because Aaron Hernandez was not a good look for Florida. Wasn't a good look for anyone. So
that whole team was just not a good look. You talk about thug central. The only higher ratio of thugs to number of players that I have seen was the 2009 Kiffin class, where you have 5 convicted felons, 1 convicted murderer, and that was just 25 dudes. So you have a lot of guys out of an 85-man roster from those Urban Meyer teams. But as far as ratio, that 2009 group is pretty brutal. So can I go ahead? I know it's early and you can change, but you're good at picking games against the spread. I'm not. So can you go ahead and give me an indication or a pick of where you are on the 10.5? Because that's a nasty number. Double digits in a rival game. Ugh.
It's pretty gross. Florida always comes to play against Tennessee. That's like the one game they get up for. It doesn't matter how bad they are. They get up for that game. I think Tennessee will win. I think they'll win easily. If it were at 9 points, 9.5, I would take Tennessee to cover that. 10.5 is just a little too much. It's just a little, just at the moment, speaking right now. It doesn't matter. It's just like Auburn, Alabama. It does not matter how bad Auburn is. I would always take Auburn to cover the spread against Alabama, because they get up for that game. Florida is the exact same way. They get up for this game for some reason. Doesn't matter if they have, Sister Mary and her convent sisters playing. They're getting up for the game.
Interesting. Chris Landry will give us a look at that Akron game. Did he think it was dirty at times? And we'll talk Florida as well. Craft Treats will take care of your pet. Let's say your pet gets undercut by a Zip, an Akron Zip player. Well, they're in pain. What are you going to give them? Craft Treats, because they've got the CBD cannabinoid that will absolutely take care of your pet's pain and will take care of your pet's anxiety. With Amanda, her pet has anxiety issues because it's younger. My pet doesn't get real anxious. He's pretty chill nowadays because he's older, but he doesn't like jumping up on the bed. Craft Treats helps with both. So go to crafttreats.com and they will take care of you. It's absolutely fantastic. After this, Chris Landry of LandryFootball.com. We also have a news segment coming up. Don't let me forget it, Amanda, because I'll forget it if you don't. It's called the Hooker Report.
Hooker report.
Yeah, we got the Hooker report coming up a little bit later.
Okay.
Where does Hendon Hooker stand? If you can pull up maybe odds for me of winning the Heisman Trophy. Now, I don't think he's going to. I don't think he's necessarily even going to be in New York, but he is a contender. You know, he's going to be in that conversation. And if he keeps putting up great numbers, it doesn't matter if he's the best overall player, which is what the Heisman's supposed to be. He's going to be in the conversation. So,
well, I think a couple people have been knocked severely down from the Heisman talk.
well, cool. Can you pull up those rankings, and we'll get to that a little bit later in the show. I would never bet on that. I think as a Heisman voter, am I allowed to bet on that? I'm not sure. She's Amanda LaFratta, and I'm Dave Hooker. Am I allowed to bet on that?
I don't think I'd get into that on air. Maybe we'll discuss that after.
Yeah, because I can pretty much tell. I could call around and tell you who's going to win every year. I've known every year but one who was going to win in the 15 years that I've been voting. Oh gosh, yeah, 15 years that I've been voting. So I pretty much know, but
not right now. You can't know at this moment.
No. I mean like after the regular season's over.
Oh yeah, I think everyone pretty much knows.
Yeah, I'm not breaking any news. After this, we'll be joined by Chris Landry. So you hang tight with us. And how about Big Orange Phillies? Great place to watch the game. Tell us about it, Mr. Viles.
Gary Viles here. I want to personally invite you to North Knoxville's newest sports bar and restaurant. It's Big Orange Phillies, located in Black Oak Center. And yes, folks, it's happening in Halls. Big Orange Phillies offers family-friendly environment with homemade meals and the best deli South subs around. Billiards, darts, jukebox, shuffleboard, and cornhole, and a full bar. We also offer valet parking on weekends and during special events. We even have a covered back patio. It's happening at Big Orange Phillies. We want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
This is Al's Dish Barbecue Supply, so come on in and see all the different rubs and sauces we have, plus a complete line of Green Mountain grills. Don't be overwhelmed. We have plenty of help so you can produce the best barbecue and amaze your family and friends. Barbecue is America's food. We'll do what we can to bring you all the best products. We're Al's Nest Barbecue, where Chattanooga goes to grill.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassey Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassey, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassey's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassey Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm named Will and
Welcome back. She's Amanda LaFratta. I'm Dave Hooker. Got all kinds of mix going on there, right?
There's a lot going on.
It's actually pretty good, isn't it?
I can't tell who. I know the first song, but I can't tell who's the second.
It is everybody. Kid Rock, Little Run DMC.
Oh.
Yeah, those Scorpions, I think, which are horrible. But the key is small snippets, no copyright violations. There we go. All right, she's Amanda LaFratta. I'm Dave Hooker. I learned something over the weekend. I told you I had a surprise for you.
Yes, but can we say the names on air?
I don't know, but
that might have done it.
It's so good. I mean, who spent all that time doing that? And it is copyright free, so that is a very good thing. So Chris Landry set to join us here momentarily. As let me look and see if we got Chris now. Oh, we do, Chris. So I'm curious. Let's go ahead and get into this. Chris Landry. Chris, when you're ready to jam after football season's over and you put in like 40, 80 hour or 30, 80-hour work weeks with preseason camp and all that stuff, what goes in your 8-track player?
I don't have one, and I gotta confess, I'm musically illiterate. I'm not that I don't like it. I just don't really take time to listen to it. I'll give you a quick story of how illiterate I am, and this is one of the more embarrassing moments of my lifetime. So I'm coaching for Bill.
Now, let me interrupt for a second, because you have told me this story, but I want you to tell it again because it is an awesome, awesome story. So go ahead.
So I'm coaching for Bill Belichick in Cleveland, and it's a mini camp in May, and Bill Belichick, for people who don't know, is a big music fan and is close with a lot of the, he's just into all that stuff. So he comes to me after practice. He says, "Hey," he says, would you mind visiting with I got to run upstairs real quick. Would you mind entertaining just for a few minutes my friend and his girlfriend?" I said, "Sure, yeah, absolutely." So I go and I talk with them, and I'm visiting with them, and smoking hot girlfriend, so that should have been a tip off. I'm just talking to him, and what do you got? Yeah, he's a musician. He plays. Oh, great. Where do you? I mean, I'm just trying to make small talk, So where you guys play mostly, whatever. I mean, I don't even know how to have a conversation. Well, anyway, long story short, Bill comes back and
Amanda, you're never going to believe who this is. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm going to believe it, I think.
It was John Bon Jovi, and I had no clue who he was.
Wait, why did he have a girlfriend?
Well, this was back years ago. I don't think he was married then.
He had to be.
That was
high school sweetheart.
Well,
yeah, that was her.
Maybe that was her. I mean, I don't know. Well, maybe. I don't think they were married. I thought he said girlfriend. Look, Amanda, he might have had his high school sweetheart at home, and this was somebody else. I don't know who she was. I don't follow him. We're not going to go there. But I'm just saying that the moral of the story is I didn't know who that was. Now, in defense of me, so like when did he become really popular? Just give me Amanda, you're kind of young. So Dave, when did he become when did everybody knew who John Bon Jovi was? But give me a year.
Yeah, I want to say 80. I want to say 80.
Okay, well then I have no defense. We need to move on because I'm really embarrassed. So I didn't know who he was. I'll be honest with you. I'll give you another one. And this is John Goodman stopped by Tiger Stadium after hours one time. And I say, "How you doing?" And "Hey, I'm John." "Hey, John, how you doing?" And we everybody's gone. I've got some film on. Can I help you? Well, I was just going to take a look at the stadium. And sure, I can take you quickly. He was in shooting that show, Everybody's All American.
Yes.
You may have seen that. It was I didn't even recognize him. So, yeah, that's my ignorance. So the joke around, at least the Cleveland offices were, sometimes there'd be some reference of some sort, and like a Elvis Presley or something, and Belichick would look over to me and say, "Yeah, he was from Memphis. He was a rock star back in the day." And I'm like, "Well, I knew who Elvis Presley was. Give me a minute." But we had a concert one time after a preseason game in Cleveland, in the old Cleveland Stadium, and I'm trying to think who was it. Was it the Temptations? Is that the Temptations? Okay, so I think they were playing like 2 or 3 bands, and we had like a box, and Belichick was there, and Saban was there. They were rocking out. I just went in, 15 minutes, sipped on a beer. I don't really like alcohol. So I just pretend to sip on a beer and just left that for 15 minutes. I've just never been really into. So I waste a lot of your airtime embarrassing myself, but
no, that's good. That's good stuff. No, we're not even halfway there talking about John Bon Jovi. Oh, we're living on a prayer. Zool Beer Company. Man, don't shake your head at me. That was a good one. Zool Beer Company. Great panoramic views of downtown. Easy parking at Zool Beer, and the official craft beer of Off the Hook Sports. And Zool Beer is worldwide award-winning beer. Amanda wants to say something, so go ahead. What was that?
You missed We're Wanted, Dead or Alive. You went
Yes.
to We're Living on a Prayer first.
All right. So that's true. I dropped that one. All right. So, Chris, I want to get to your thoughts on Florida. I want to get to your thoughts on the Akron game to some extent because that team was just horrible. But I do want to start off with I saw a player taking away the quarterback keep, and it was very low. I don't know if you've seen the play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have.
Okay. Is that kosher?
Well, it looked bad. I wasn't. I didn't really like it. But one of the things that was, and I think it was clearly, and the reason why I didn't like it because it was clearly a result of the chippiness that had gone on in the game. But just in an overall defense, these guys have got a target about the size of the belly button to the belt buckle. I mean they can't hit them high, they can't hit them low. But I thought that was a clear chippiness approach. So yeah, I didn't particularly like that. No.
So I want to turn it to Florida. Maybe we'll get some SEC questions in as well. But let's just put a bow on the Akron game because it is Akron. We don't need that to bleed over to Tuesday or Wednesday. What stood out about that game to you? Mission accomplished. No serious injuries, we don't think. What's your takeaway?
I thought they did what they needed to do. I mean, I think they controlled the game throughout, which I thought they would. A little bit of a slow start, some mistakes here or there. You always got to clean up. You're always looking for that as a coach, but it was a very clean game for the most part. Played a lot of people. Look, when people always ask you, well, how do you look at a game like that? Well, yeah, you play a weak opponent and you dominate a weak opponent. And, I hate these type of games personally, but we have them. And if you have them, what are you supposed to do? Give up 28 points to a weak opponent? I mean, when you dominate them, you're doing what you're supposed to do. So I would say they're doing what they're supposed to do, play with a lot of confidence. No injuries, although there's a little bit of a scare with Cedric Tillman. So, look, they're in pretty good shape. And, yeah, on to Florida. I think that's going to be interesting week of preparation. And I got some real thoughts on a lot of thoughts this week on Tennessee, Florida.
All right. Well, so give us some thoughts on Tennessee, Florida. give us like your top three observations, what you think is going to happen.
Well, I think this Florida team, and I think we saw some of it even in the win against Utah. They are very deficient in terms of the passing game. So they have to run it to set up their passing game. And I think we saw it against Kentucky. We saw it again against South Florida. We saw it in large part against Utah. Pardon me. They were able to come away with a win. I really look at a path for how Florida can win this game. I really don't see it. It's going to have to be a couple of things. They're going to have to play lockdown on defense. There's no question that's a big part of it. A couple of notes. Ventrell Miller didn't play this past week. That was big. And if he plays, that's a difference for their defense. He's their Mike backer, makes all their calls. But they're going to have to lock down on Tennessee, and they're going to have to control the football. And I think they can run the football on Tennessee. How much, I don't know, because I don't know that if Tennessee gets some early points, then Florida is taken out of their run game. I mean, they have to go to the pass game. They got to score points. So I just think this is a narrow window for Florida to win. I think Tennessee's better in a lot of ways. And I know historically, what this game has meant, and it's usually Florida's way and most of the time. But this is a game that Tennessee's got not only every opportunity to win, but should win. They've got so many advantages, and Florida has so few and so narrow that I just think that this is, maybe a bit of a rat poison, but I don't see this as necessarily a blowout, but I think this game could get out of hand if Tennessee gets some early points and causes Florida to chase. I think Florida's very limited. I think the future is going to be good there. I just don't think this team right now is able to win in multiple ways. With that said, if they're able to run the football and they force Tennessee to play numbers in the box, then you'll see Florida be able to throw it a little bit more effectively than they have been. But I just really don't see that. Again, struggling against Utah and Kentucky is one thing. Struggling against South Florida is another. Florida's going to have to play their best game by far, and they're going to need some help from Tennessee with mistakes here.
Chris, I thought of you when we talked about some plays over the middle that Tennessee wasn't making when they ran that slant. It's going right to left. I'm trying to remember if it's the third quarter, I believe. They did run a slant. Do you think they feel comfortable with that, or is that just to show Florida something? Because I wonder if Hendon Hooker and his accuracy issues makes them a little wary to throw the ball over the middle, just attacking the middle of the field. Where is Tennessee there?
Well, first of all, I think that they're trying to work on that. And I think that's why they did it and played it a few times. Look, in order to do that, you got to move the safety. So you got to move one of the safeties down in the box. So you got to have some success running the football because, you don't want Hendon Hooker throwing a timing route there. It's not one of his better routes because timing's everything. So when you throw a slant, the ball has to be 6 inches in front of the receiver. It can't be in the numbers. It can't be, it just because it breaks the whole route. It makes it, the effectiveness is to be able to catch it in stride and make a big play. And I think that that's really not Hendon's strength. But it's still an easy throw if you move the safety out of the middle of the field. If he's, in that hook zone or it's where you get a good linebacker drop, then you don't want Hendon Hooker throwing it. So I think the reason why they're not doing it any more than they have is because I don't think they're very comfortable with it. And I don't think they're very comfortable because that's a pick, a misread and a misthrow. That's a problem. I mean, we're seeing that in the NFL. We saw Jameis Winston struggle with that very thing yesterday in the NFL. So I think that's a big part of it. It's going to be interesting to see how much they'll do that this week or how much they're going to need to do it. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they play it. But, yeah, that's to me what I see is they tried to work on it a little bit to try to improve that timing and rhythm.
Chris's appearance brought to you in part by Owl's Nest Barbecue. They've got the sauces. They've got the rubs. Chris, you've tried them. Pretty darn good, huh?
Unbelievable. I have eaten. I've seasoned that all spring and summer long, even recently with briskets, chicken, everything. I'm putting it on everything. It is awesome. I mean, it is the best I've ever tasted. I've had to take on some extra to weight to deal with what I've done with unbelievable stuff.
Well, you also you got a bum foot, so we'll be sure and we'll forgive you for that. Please hit that like, subscribe button and share. Takeaways from the SEC, if we may, Chris. And A&M was without a lot of players, and they tried to give that ball game away. But to beat a ranked team after what happened the previous week, I'm not a Jimbo Fisher guy, but you have to give him a lot of credit and that team a lot of credit for responding.
Yeah, and listen, I thought they would. I always say, be wary of the team that everybody's kicking dirt on the week before. They're awful. They can't do anything. And what does everybody say? Oh, man, look what happened last week. Look, they're going to lose their next 5 games. If they've got any pride and they've got any level of talent and any ability to adjust, that normally doesn't happen. Usually you see them respond. The other thing is this Miami team is not as good as people thought. In breaking them down on tape, I think the defense is okay, nothing special. And I think their offense The quarterback has got a lot of natural physical skills, but he's not real precise. He's not real accurate at times. And I thought there was a whole lot of misplays by Miami in that game. The defense of A&M played better than people probably understood against Appalachian State, but they held App State to 14 points. And I mean, they were on the field for 80 snaps because their offense couldn't do anything. I had a feeling it was going to go to Max Johnson because they needed to get the ball out quickly. They needed to work the screen game. On my podcast this past week, I talked about you've got to attack Miami's inability to tackle and cover the screens, and I thought they did that pretty well. They still couldn't score a whole bunch of points. So I expected A&M to win, particularly at home, and to respond. Now it's going to get real interesting because they got Arkansas. We'll take them 1 week at a time. They got an Arkansas team that didn't play well against Bobby Petrino's Missouri State team, ironically, this past weekend. But that's a physical team, and quite frankly, they have hammered A&M recently. So that's going to be a real interesting matchup, and even a more important one because that's conference play. But I shouldn't say that. That Miami win was important. They needed that to stop the bleeding. So I'm a backtrack on what I said. It's maybe a conference game. They needed that Miami game in a huge way.
Yep. Chris Landry of LandryFootball.com. Chris's appearance brought to you in part by The Mattress Place. The Mattress Place is right there on Chapman Highway, just a couple of miles from downtown. No gimmicks, just 30 to 70% off each and every day. The Mattress Place is about integrity. Marine Corps veteran owned, over 225 5-star reviews. They are simply awesome. So, Amanda, go ahead and jump in there. I know you got some questions too, as we want to remind everybody to hit that like and subscribe button and please share. We would greatly appreciate that as well.
Yeah. So sorry, my cat is. I just got back from vacation, so she's very loving at the moment. So, looking at the SEC this past weekend, and I know we dived in a little bit on that, but who would you say from 3 games is the most impressive? And I think we can all agree it's probably Georgia. But outside of Georgia, who would you say is the most impressive, or who do you think has some issues going forward?
I think everybody has issues besides Georgia. And I mean, I think Alabama is still the team that's most likely to figure it out. Precious cat, by the way, we can see her now making a live appearance on Off the Hook.
I'm sorry.
No, that is sweet. Look, I mean, Alabama's still the clear number 2. I think Tennessee's done a nice job. Kentucky's done a really good job. I think Kentucky Ole Miss next week is going to be real interesting. But I think it's still a lot of unknown as to other than Georgia. Look, I thought that South Carolina would get hammered. You guys heard me talk about it. Just, the whole South Carolina hype just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. They're not very good at all. Georgia's very good and South Carolina is not good. And that looked, I mean, Georgia could have made that whatever they wanted. I would say the most alarming thing, though, I mean, so go kind of branch off from that. I think the next few weeks are going to determine kind of Kentucky, Tennessee looks like the battle for the second best team in the East. And I don't know that they're, in the West. I'm not going to overreact to Arkansas's performance last week, but I still think it's kind of who's the second best team in the West. A&M's got issues. Great win by LSU. They're only going to get better. They outcoached Leach and his staff big time. I've got into that in my podcast. Just a tremendous job, and you see that. But I don't know who's that second best in the East or West is I think a precipitous drop. Even in the West, where Alabama's having some issues. I think the biggest story to me was not that they lost, but the beatdown at the hands of Penn State that Auburn took. What a mess! We saw, Scott Frost get run. We know that Herm Edwards got run yesterday at Arizona State. It's inevitable. Brian Harson's gone. I can't see Jeff Collins surviving at Georgia Tech. I mean, it's happening every year, but we hadn't gotten out of September yet, and we're close to getting, about 4 of them just get knocked off. I mean, one every week it seems like. But that was really alarming. And Auburn's got major problems offensively, major problems with the passing game. And their defense, Penn State had more success than I thought they would, but they just had no answer. They made too many mistakes. They could not capitalize in the red zone. And I just thought at the second half, the dam broke. And I don't think Penn State's a great team. I think they're good, but I mean, they're not playoff caliber, challenging good at all. That was more about Auburn, as much as I want to give Penn State respect or credit, and they deserve it. That was more about what Auburn just completely fell apart in that game. That was really eye-opening.
I think for people that say, why fire a coach like Scott Frost in September, I think you're seeing what's happening at Auburn and what will happen. And that's sometimes it's better to make a clean break. It might have been better to make a clean break when they had all those meetings about the internal investigation. And I wrote a lot about Auburn last year, so saw a lot of Tank Bigsby's body language on the sideline. It just seems like that's a disgruntled team that I don't know that can be fixed. And I think the spread was, or the over-under was 6.5 games this year, whether they'll win 6.5 or more, 6 or 7. And I still don't know that Brian Harsin makes it.
Well, here's the thing about it. See, I don't think the team is giving up at all. I just think what's happening is they're deficient. They're not that good. And the concern I had with the fit with Brian is recruiting. I think they've still got some good players on defense. They don't match up. They don't look like an SEC team. They don't have the answers. Look at the quarterback situation, the passing game as a whole. They're just not that good. I mean, the name Auburn suggests that they're going to be good. They're just not. I mean, I think people look at it like, man, look how well they played against Alabama last year. That was really an unbelievable coaching job, and Alabama was really struggling, and they managed to get out of it and win the conference championship game. But Auburn had them dead in the water. I just don't think Auburn's very good, and the future's not good. The biggest problem at Auburn is the dysfunction of a very powerful, a couple of them, but the main one, Jimmy Rain, a powerful booster that basically said, okay, Alan Green, you want to hire your guy? Because he wanted Kevin Steele. He didn't want Brian Harsin. Alan Green, the athletic director, did. I'll show you and I'll get the last laugh. And those guys, so much power, so much ego, he's done everything in a negative, sinister way, a classless way to try to undermine Brian. And that's been really bad. And I think making a move from him would have likely ended up in a lawsuit. Brian will be fine with a buyout. But I just don't think it was a really good fit. And I'm not saying that having Jimmy Raines say so was the key, because I don't know that was going to work either. But they've got to find somebody that knows how to deal with the backroom dealings, because everybody has their stuff, okay? Alabama was that way for the longest time. And it was Mal Moore, when he got Nick Saban, it was Mal Moore that kind of stood as the shield armor and said, Paul Bryan Jr., everybody, you stay away from the head coach. You got any problems, you come to me. And Nick Saban said, I'm not dealing with that. Now, Nick Saban had the gravitas to have that command to get the job, and then he won quickly enough to where no one's bothering him. But at Auburn, they've just got those cooks in the kitchen, and everybody has them. Nobody has them quite the way that Auburn has it. It is really unbelievable. It's hard to describe. It's the most difficult, incestuous, way that they do things that's a problem. So finding someone that can deal with that can deal with all of that and maybe shield the whole team from that, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be tough to see, and that's why the job is not as good as it should be. Auburn and Auburn football, Auburn's history is really good, but dealing with this limits who you want to deal with. I mean, there's no question that certain people that you would think would be interested. Billy Napier, for example, said, I'm aware of what goes on at Auburn. I don't think that's a good fit for me, and other people think the same thing. So we'll keep that in mind as they definitely will go coach shopping this offseason.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that we're talking about Auburn because I kind of want to get into something. Auburn always, for some reason, every season gets up to play Alabama. It doesn't matter how bad they are, what have you. They're always ready. Florida, in the same way, gets up to play Tennessee. So how do you see that, or do you see that affecting this game going forward this weekend for the Vols?
Well, I think both teams are going to be up for it. I mean, I think Florida's going to be up for it. I mean, might look at a little bit of, South Florida looking ahead. Look, both are going to be up for it. I mean, it's Florida, Tennessee. Look, if you go back in the history of Florida, Tennessee, and I'm talking, let's just go 90s on, Florida was just better. I mean, when Florida and Tennessee were the two best programs in the conference, it was clearly Florida 1 and Tennessee 2. And that game, in we played very early, decided the East. It decided basically who's going to win the SEC. And at that time, it decided who was still in the race for the BCS. That's kind of what it meant. And just Florida was better. And Spurrier was a better coach than Phillip. And he could really, Tennessee was physical. They in Florida with a lot of talent can match them. Tennessee won a lot on talent at that time, and Florida was just better. And Florida, Tennessee at that time played a lot of man coverage. Florida took advantage of it. Speaking of crossing routes and being able to manipulate, they did a tremendous job, and they won most of the time. So I think they were just better. I think they were up for it. A lot of it too, Amanda. You know the history, and Dave does as well. Steve Spurrier was from East Tennessee. And he wasn't recruited, but they didn't throw the football to Tennessee. So he goes down to Florida because, and now he will use it as a chip. Well, they didn't recruit me. And, anyway, so he used that as a chip on his shoulder. I mean, Steve lived with a chip on his shoulder. I mean, he still does. I mean, he makes a turn on the back nine and he's got a chip on his shoulder about something. He's just that way. So I think that has a lot to do with it. I think going forward, it's going to be interesting. I'll say it again. I think Tennessee's in a good position to take advantage of Florida now, because I don't know if Tennessee's going to have the advantage roster-wise over Florida in 2 years or 3 years. A year, maybe. But this year, Tennessee's definitely got a personnel advantage, and I'm curious to see how they're able to handle that.
It was 24 years ago today, not to take away from this day in sports history, that Tennessee beat Florida at home in 1998, and the famous call by John Ward, "Pandemonium reigns," and it was such an incredible call, and I still remember that. And I remember you might remember Steve Johnson, who was the defensive back who caught the interception at the national championship game to really close the deal. And Steve was a broadcasting major. And I remember going on the sidelines and thinking just how fortunate Tennessee was, because Florida had a couple of fumbles inside the 5-yard line about to score. And I got a big sweaty hug from Steve Johnson and people tearing up the field. But still, you go back, and if you stack those teams 1-85, and Tennessee fans are going to get mad at me, Tennessee was fortunate to win that game. Florida was the more talented team, the 1-85. I'm sorry, that's just a fact.
Yeah, well, Florida had really good defenses. They had a lot of talent. Tennessee had good defenses. They had a lot of talent. Florida could run it. Florida could throw it. Tennessee couldn't throw it. And they didn't have much of a passing game. They weren't very well coached on that side of the ball most of the time. I thought Cutcliffe, when he was there in his stints, they were better. They were more creative, and I thought he got more out of the offense. But they just weren't as good because Spurrier would attack, and Phillip was a little more conservative. Well, that, and Phillip would always say, well, we won a whole lot of games over here doing that. And he did, because he had better talent. Phillip won games in February, signing day. there wasn't a lot of strategic ingenuity there. So when the talent level was relatively close, they lost. I mean, you can go back and Tennessee would play a Memphis. They played sometimes a Vanderbilt. They played some people. They would, it would take them a while to separate. It was their style. I'm not saying that they didn't want to win big. They just didn't explode on you. They had to wear you down, run the football. That's what they did. Well, against Florida would get some points on you, and Tennessee'd have to match points in most of those games, and they just couldn't do it. They weren't made that way. So they weren't made to win those type of games. You mentioned in this game, they were able to do it. They were able to play well enough. And in most of the games, it was Tennessee that made those mistakes because they were playing left-handed. Florida, made mistakes, and Tennessee took advantage of it. And I think Florida did leave some points on the field, but they were obviously very happy. You always know when you rush the field. I always say this, and it's a good example, and it's a good lesson to learn. You don't want to be the type of program that rushes the field after you win a big game. You want to be the type of program that the opponent rushes the field after they beat you, because then it's a big deal. And I just think at that point, it just was a big deal for Tennessee to beat Florida, because it was like a monkey off the back of Phillip. It was a gorilla, 800-pound gorilla off his back.
His legacy is completely different if they don't win that game. And not only do you not want your fans to run on the field necessarily, you don't want your fans to dig up chunks of turf, which Tennessee fans did. And I was like, this is Shield Watkins Field. Let's not do this. But anyway, Chris Landry, football.com. You can check out Chalk Talk, brought to you by Craft Treats, The Mattress Place, and Owl's Nest Barbecue on our YouTube channel. And really pleased to share the fact that we're going to team up with Chris, and Chris is going to have just an enormous amount of content on our YouTube channel, and I can't wait. And I've got some surprises for you, Chris, a little bit later to fancy things up that I think you'll like. So I will talk to you here in just a little bit, and we certainly appreciate the time. People need to go to LandryFootball.com to learn more about football than anybody you know. That's just the way it works. That's it. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks a bunch. Appreciate being on with you guys, and I'm going spend a little time with some music trivia. So I'll take care,
Chris. I appreciate that. I think we could take you on that. Back in 2 minutes. First, remind you, City Heating and Air Conditioning is the HVAC dealer that you should call. Why? Because it's about integrity. They're not going to show up with say that it's a $30 service call and try to sell you a new unit. That's City Heating and Air Conditioning. cityheatandair.com if you need to know more. And how about Viles Automotive Group right there on Callahan?
It's Gary Viles here, Viles Automotive on Callahan Drive. I've been selling cars here in East Tennessee for 27 years. In that time, I've come to realize it's not about the car. It's about you, the customer. So I'm here to take care of you just like family. Good credit, bad credit, you name it, we can get you taken care of. If we don't have it, we can find it for you. We go across the country to get any vehicle that you want. And here at Viles Automotive, we don't believe in fake numbers. We just give you great deals. And as always, we want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassy Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassy, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassy's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassy Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
This is Steve Ray, and I own the Midnight Oil and Michelin Tire Direct service station here in Ooltewah. It's not a fancy place, never has been, but it's a clean place with clean restrooms and good folks who work here. We sell gas and fix cars, nothing glamorous, but we love what we do, and we're going to keep doing it for a long time to come. There's not many real service stations left, and that's a shame. We're the guys just like the guys back in your hometown. We'll fix your tire, change your oil, and put a new set of Michelins on your car. If you want a Twinkie, you'll just have to keep on going. Thanks for the business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
There's your bear.
We need to get to the Hooker report. Let's take a look at his Heisman odds.
Okay, got him.
Amanda has them pulled up. Remind you to hit that like and subscribe button, share. We want to be a part of your day. We're here each and every morning, but the YouTube channel is loaded. I can't even tell you what goodness we got going on there this week. So let's go ahead and shoot it at me if you can. The Heisman odds, our Hooker report, not TJ Hooker, not Dave Hooker, but Hendon Hooker. What do we have with our Hooker report today? Heisman odds, sir. Ma'am.
All right. According to Vegas Insider, about 3 hours ago, Hendon Hooker's odds to win the Heisman are plus 4,000. He is 11th on the list of Heisman hopefuls.
11th. Does that surprise you? Is that too low?
Well, not right now because we're only 3 weeks in. He wasn't even really, I mean, he was on the list, but not really high on the list, you know, and we're only 3 weeks in. I mean, Tennessee's biggest wins against Pitt on the road. It's not looking super hot, but you have a lot of other people who are going to have to fall a lot farther in order for him to get up there. I'm not saying they won't fall farther, but some of this is people who have played, you know, like Quinn Ewers is on there for some reason. And that's because he played Alabama well.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Okay, I'm going to see if this works. It was supposed to be the rejoin, but it's something I put together. I'm just going to try it on the fly. Let's see. Okay. I think it will.
OffTheHookSports.com, your home.
No, it won't. Forget about it.
All right.
Fine. Dad, blame it. I have it tomorrow. It's a really good element that somehow didn't shift over to the right computer. Nevertheless, let's go ahead get an update on today's tough question, Amanda, before we get to Jacob Warren. What we got on that?
All right. Today's tough question. As a Tennessee fan, does the hype scare you? No, I love it. And Scared to Death are tied for second place at 26.6%. Not Really is coming in last at 7.8%, and the winner at the moment, A Little Bit at 39.1%. I think that's the correct answer.
All righty. How about our guy, Jacob Warren, joining us, brought to you by Bassey Lawn and Garden. Man alive, it's worth the drive. He talks about Florida, looking forward to the week. It's a big one for the Vols. Here is Jacob Warren, Tennessee tight end.
Have blown out, right? Or they should be beating or whatever, but they still fight and they play hard, and obviously they're not just going to lay down. And I think that coming into this game, like I said, 2 ranked opponents, and they're going to be just as fired up as we are. You know what I mean? So I think that team has a lot of talent, and we'll put up a good fight, and I think it'll be a good game.
Please hit that like and subscribe button. The Vol Report brought to you by Bassey Lawn and Garden with Jacob Warren. And also, if you can, hit share. We greatly appreciate that. So, Jacob, that Jalen Hyatt guy can play football.
Man, yeah, he can. He's fast, too. Goodness gracious. No, he man, just the way he moves is just crazy, dude, because I think I've talked about it, but, like, he just floats when he runs, and he's so – I mean, he's put on a lot of weight, but he's still a light guy, and he can just fly. So watching him catch those slants across the middle and just take off out of the backside like that and just outrun everybody is pretty crazy.
Was there a moment, because he talked about how hard it was for him last year because he wasn't playing as much, and he's even pointed to himself as saying, maybe I didn't have the best approach. I'm paraphrasing. And now he said at the press conference last night, haven't done anything yet. We haven't even gotten started.
Yeah.
So he's still hungry now, even though he's had some success. Was there anything that changed, or when did you see the change in him past year?
Yeah, I think over this last spring ball, everybody really saw a big change from Jalen. Just the way he attacked the weight room, putting on weight as far as like eating and making sure he's gaining good weight, and then even just kind of as a leader, right, in that wide receiver room and showing guys how it's supposed to be done, and taking that next step to just kind of in his I guess his maturity. He's a mature guy, and he has been. But just I think when it comes to the game, just his attention to detail and just the way, like I said, that he approaches each day and he comes to work every day. And the coaches obviously realize that, and the players realize that, and we all really appreciate that. He was like, this team needs me to be a big guy for us. Obviously Velus moving on last year, and he kind of played that spot, and Jalen repped in too. But just Jalen understanding that. That's his spot to take, right? And it's time for him to step up and go get it and be the best he can. So glad he's able to do that for us and for himself.
As far as his improvement, the offense looks as if it's got all the pieces in place. A couple of slow starts, and Pitt's very understandable because that was a way different look, but a little bit of a slow start against Akron. Is that an issue, you think, or is that just maybe coincidence that there were 2 slow starts?
Just coincidence, I think. I don't know. Even in Akron, you're sitting there with 14 points in the first quarter, and you're just kind of like, man, like 14-0. That's completely normal for most games, right? Like you shouldn't be complaining about being up 2 scores after you've had 3 drives, right? Like that's pretty, I don't know. It's weird to think about the fact that we were all really upset about we also scoring 14 points. But that's our identity. We want to come out and we want to score quickly and put a lot of points on the board. And so I think, you kind of stall out on that first drive and then don't get points there. I think it's just important just to come back the next drive. And I don't know exactly the flow of the game, but I'm pretty sure we end up going and scoring a couple times after that. So just kind of calming those nerves and making it like, okay, what we're doing, we're not going to like have the slow start again. We're going to try to come out and do what we do. So no, I don't think there's any panic or anything. I don't know if that's what you're asking, but I don't think there's any panic or any worry about that. I think it's just a matter of coincidence and what happened and the progression of that first drive that kind of maybe seemed slow or like we weren't ready to come out and play.
Well, it's funny you mentioned you guys have raised the bar so high. So I do a report card, and don't look at it ever because I may make you mad sometime and you might not want to work with me, and I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, I won't.
So I was writing that up, and I was going to give the quarterbacks a B+ because I thought there were a couple of missed passes by Hendon Hooker. But then I always look at the stats before I actually publish it. And I see 14 of 18 for 298 yards. I was like, how can I not give that guy an A? I mean, that you guys have raised the bar so high that at times I think people on the outside, including me, kind of nitpick a little bit. And my apologies if I do that.
It's all right. Like you said, everybody does it, and you can't really. We talk about not listening to the outside noise, right? And understanding that there's going to be people that say this or that say that, and like for you, it's not coming out of any bad place, right? Like you still care for the team, you still will support us, and I think that's great. But you can't get too caught up in what, all the rankings and all of the grading and the report cards and stuff like that. So I won't even read it. So don't worry about it.
Good. I won't send it to you. It's no good anyway. You guys have a lot more insight than I do.
Have blown out.
So double Jacob there for a second. Amanda, I was putting together that report card. Can you please hit that like and subscribe button, share as well. We greatly appreciate it. And I was just sitting at like a B or a B+. And I looked at the stats, I'm like, you're 14 of 18 for 298 yards and a couple of touchdowns. I mean, I do think we nitpick. Now, do I think Hendon Hooker's the most accurate quarterback in the world? No. But he's 14 of 18 for 298 yards. I mean, I can't not give that an A, right?
No, you have to. And it's, it's getting, I guess Tennessee should be happy that they're on this side of it to where people have to nitpick to find something wrong or to give them a lower grade. Because for a long time, you didn't really have to nitpick to figure out why it wasn't a good performance. You didn't really have to. It was pretty glaringly obvious what was going on and how bad, players were playing. But now it's a good place to be if you're a Tennessee fan, that people have to nitpick to find problems in your program.
Yeah. We do remind you that we have the Hooker shirts for Off the Hook Sports, and they're on the Florida discount right now. So this week you can get them at a really incredible price, and they're really comfortable. Hooker right across the front. We've got our logo on the back, and would certainly love for you to sport that out and about. So I think out the door they're like $19.99. So I believe that even includes shipping. So you might want to go ahead and check that out. We had a reduction in price because we want you to be able to celebrate this season. So I did mention this day in sports history, and this day in sports history, it was 24 years ago today that Tennessee beat Florida in 1998, went on to win a national title. Will they do so again? Well, they're not going to win a national title this year, but they might beat Florida and probably should. She's Amanda LaFratta. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation